Your life changes when you stop asking, "Do I have what it takes?" and start deciding, "I will become capable enough to handle it." You must believe in yourself before you can expect lasting change, not because you will always feel confident, but because there will be days when nobody encourages you, your plans fail, your progress feels slow, and doubt becomes louder than your ambition. The real question is not whether you have doubts. Everyone does. The real question is whether those doubts will control your decisions. This audiobook, You Must Believe in Yourself, is about building self-trust through real daily behavior. You will learn how to stop waiting for approval, trust your own judgment, face fear, handle mistakes, stop comparing your life with others, and continue working when nobody notices your effort. You will also learn why confidence becomes stronger when you keep promises to yourself and make small decisions that prove your reliability. Stay until the end, because believing in yourself is not about feeling powerful every morning. It is about becoming someone whose actions give you reasons to trust yourself. Your confidence starts with one decision. Choose to believe that you can become better. Chapter 1. Stop waiting for others to believe in you. Something new and stop after one negative comment. They make one mistake and immediately ask someone else whether they should continue. Slowly, they give other people control over decisions that belong to them. There is an important difference between receiving useful advice and needing permission. Good advice can improve your decision. The need for permission can delay your decision. A mature person learns to listen without becoming dependent. You can respect someone's opinion without handing that person responsibility for your future. That is one of the first skills you must develop if you want real confidence. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many people believe confidence means feeling certain before taking action. In daily life, confidence usually develops in the opposite order. You take a small action. You see that you can handle the result. You learn something from the experience. Then you trust yourself a little more. This process repeats until your belief becomes based on evidence rather than hope. That gives you a practical starting point. Stop asking yourself whether everyone believes in you. Start asking whether you are giving yourself enough evidence to believe in yourself. There is a major difference between these two questions. The first question makes your confidence dependent on other people. The second question puts responsibility back in your hands. Take a simple example. You decide to wake up earlier and spend 30 minutes learning a useful skill. You tell someone about your plan. That person laughs and says you will probably quit within a week. You now have two choices. You can spend the morning proving that person wrong with an argument, or you can quietly follow your plan for the next 30 days. The second choice gives you something far more valuable than approval. It gives you evidence. Your mind pays close attention to what you repeatedly do. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you create a small record of reliability. Every time you break a promise without a serious reason, you also create a record. This is why self-belief cannot be built only through positive words. Your daily behavior teaches you what to believe about yourself. There is another lesson here that many people miss. You do not need to make large promises to build strong self-trust. In fact, large promises can sometimes make the process harder. A person may decide to exercise 2 hours every day, read 50 pages every night, wake up at 5, learn a new skill, and completely change their life in 1 week. The plan sounds impressive, but it may not survive ordinary life. A better method is to make your promises small enough to keep and serious enough to matter. Read 10 pages. Walk for 20 minutes. Complete one important task before checking social media. Spend 15 focused minutes learning something useful. These actions look ordinary, but they create something important. They show your mind that your decisions can become behavior. Do this for 30 days and record what you actually complete. Do not record what you planned. Record what you did. That simple distinction can change the way you see yourself. A plan can make you feel productive for a few minutes. Evidence can change your confidence for much longer. This is also why comparison can damage self-belief. You may look at another person and see their results without seeing their years of practice. You may see their confidence without seeing the mistakes that built it. You may notice their position without knowing the private work behind it. Comparison often gives you incomplete information and then asks you to make a judgment about your own worth. Your better comparison is with your recent behavior. Ask yourself whether you handle difficulty better than you did 6 months ago. Ask whether you keep more promises to yourself. Ask whether you recover faster after making a mistake. Ask whether you can concentrate longer without reaching for your phone. These questions measure development rather than popularity. A useful daily exercise is called the evidence record. At the end of each day, write down 3 things you completed that required effort. Keep them simple. You may have finished an important task even though you did not feel like doing it. You may have stayed calm during a difficult conversation. You may have studied instead of wasting an hour online. You may have gone for a walk after a tiring day. The purpose is not to praise yourself for ordinary responsibilities. The purpose is to train your attention to notice responsible behavior. Many people remember their mistakes with great detail and forget their progress within minutes. Their mind becomes skilled at collecting evidence against them. The evidence record creates a more balanced view. You should also learn to separate criticism from truth. Someone can dislike your decision and still be wrong about your ability. Someone can criticize your method and still offer useful information. These are separate issues. You do not have to accept or reject an entire person because of one opinion. Take the useful part. Check whether it is supported by facts. Then decide what deserves your attention. This skill becomes especially important around people who are comfortable with your old behavior, but uncomfortable with your new behavior. Your improvement may change the way you spend your time. You may stop joining every unnecessary activity. You may become more careful with money. You may become quieter about your plans. You may start saying no to things that used to consume your evenings. Some people will not understand these changes. That does not automatically mean you are making a mistake. It simply means your priorities are changing. Growth often becomes visible first through your schedule. The things you stop doing can matter as much as the things you start doing. Look at your own week. Notice where your hours actually go. Do not judge yourself yet. Just observe. Write down how much time goes to useful work, learning, rest, entertainment, conversations, and random phone use. You may discover that the person you say you want to become is receiving very little time from you. That discovery can be uncomfortable, but it is useful. Self-belief becomes stronger when your daily schedule supports your stated values. You cannot tell yourself that education matters while giving it 5 distracted minutes each day. You cannot say that health matters while repeatedly ignoring sleep and movement. Your calendar reveals what your actions currently believe. There is also a difference between being alone and being unsupported. You may have moments where nobody around you understands your goal. That does not mean you have to become isolated. Find people who respect effort and honesty. Learn from experienced people. Ask serious questions. Accept correction. The goal is not to reject everyone else's opinion. The goal is to stop requiring constant approval. A mature person can say, "I listened to you, and I still chose this." That sentence represents personal responsibility. It does not attack the other person. It does not claim that you know everything. It simply recognizes that your life requires your decisions. You will also need this ability because people cannot always see your reasons. You may choose a slower path because you are building a skill. You may leave a comfortable situation because you want to learn something difficult. You may spend less money because you are trying to create financial stability. From the outside, these decisions can look strange. Only you know the reason and the responsibility behind them. Do not waste energy trying to make every person understand. Explain your decisions when explanation is necessary. Correct misunderstandings when they matter, but do not turn your entire life into a campaign for approval. Your time is more valuable when it is spent doing the work. Here is another practical rule. Stop announcing every intention. There is a psychological difference between talking about a goal and working on a goal. Talking can give you a temporary feeling of progress. Action gives you actual progress. This does not mean you should hide everything. It means you should learn to protect unfinished work from unnecessary opinions. Tell the people who genuinely need to know. Ask for help from people with relevant experience. Then return to the work. You do not need 10 opinions about a decision that requires one responsible choice. There will also be days when your own belief becomes weak. This is normal. Self-belief does not mean you feel confident every morning. It means you have a process for continuing when your feelings change. You can be uncertain and still complete the task. You can feel nervous and still make the phone call. You can feel disappointed and still return to your routine. This is one of the most practical definitions of confidence. Confidence is not the absence of doubt. Confidence is the ability to continue making reasonable decisions while doubt is present. Once you understand this, you stop waiting for a perfect emotional state. Try this tomorrow. Choose one task you have been delaying because you are worried about how people will react. Make the decision based on facts rather than imagined judgment. Complete the smallest responsible action. Do not announce it. Do not defend it. Do not spend the evening wondering what everyone thinks. Finish the action and record what happened. The result will teach you more than another hour of worrying. Maybe the task goes well, maybe it goes badly. Either way, you gain information. You learn what worked. You learn what needs changing. You learn that an uncomfortable decision can be survived. That is how self-trust becomes practical. You should also understand that mistakes do not automatically prove that you were foolish to believe in yourself. A mistake can mean that your method was wrong. It can mean that you lacked information. It can mean that you underestimated the time required. It can mean that you needed more practice. The correct response is to study the mistake instead of turning it into a judgment about your entire identity. After a mistake, ask 3 questions. What exactly happened? What part was under my control? What will I change next time? These questions move your attention from shame to learning. They also prevent you from repeating the same problem simply because you were too emotional to study it. This is how you begin becoming someone you can depend on. You make a decision. You take action. You observe the result. You correct your method. You repeat the process. Over time, your confidence becomes connected to real experience. There is no need to convince the entire world that you can improve. Your responsibility is much smaller and much more powerful. You need to become willing to prove it through your daily behavior. So today, choose one promise that matters and keep it. Keep it even though nobody notices. Keep it even though nobody praises you. Keep it because you said you would. Then do it again tomorrow. After enough days, something important changes. You stop looking outside yourself for constant confirmation. You begin to recognize your own reliability. You become less interested in proving yourself through words and more interested in building yourself through action. That is where real self-belief begins. Not with applause, not with permission, not with everyone agreeing with you. It begins with the quiet knowledge that you are doing the work you told yourself you would do. Chapter 2. Trust yourself before asking others for approval. Self-trust begins with making your own decisions before searching for someone else's approval. A person who constantly asks others what to do slowly loses contact with their own judgment. You may still hear many opinions, but you stop knowing which one deserves your attention. Real confidence requires a different habit. You learn to examine the situation, make a reasonable choice, accept the result, and improve your judgment through experience. Approval feels good because it reduces uncertainty for a moment. Someone tells you that your decision is right, and your mind becomes calmer. But there is a hidden cost when this becomes a daily habit. You begin believing that you cannot decide correctly without outside confirmation. Soon you ask about small choices that you were perfectly capable of making yourself. What should I study? Which job should I take? Should I start this project? Should I say no? Should I continue? The questions keep coming because the real problem is not the decision. The real problem is that you no longer trust your ability to make one. There is a simple way to recognize this habit. Notice what you do immediately after making a decision. Do you start working, or do you reach for your phone and ask someone what they think? Do you feel satisfied with your choice, or do you search for agreement from several people? This small behavior tells you a lot about your level of self-trust. You do not need to stop listening to people. That would be another extreme. Experienced people can save you time. Friends can notice problems you missed. A teacher can correct your mistakes. Someone who has already faced the situation may give you information that you do not have. The important skill is knowing the difference between seeking information and seeking permission. Information helps you make a better decision. Permission makes you feel allowed to make a decision. These are not the same thing. Suppose you want to change your daily routine. You ask a friend how they organize their morning. That is information. You learn what works for them and decide which parts fit your life. But suppose you already know what you need to do and keep asking 5 people whether they think you should do it. You are no longer collecting useful information. You are trying to remove the discomfort of choosing. That discomfort is part of adult life. Many important decisions do not come with complete certainty. You may have 70% of the information and still need to choose. Waiting for complete certainty can become another form of avoidance. The goal is not to know everything. The goal is to make the best reasonable decision with the information available. Start using a decision process instead of looking for constant reassurance. Write down the decision clearly. List what you know. List what you do not know. Identify what matters most. Consider the likely consequences. Choose the option that fits your values and current situation. Then give yourself a reasonable period before judging the decision. This process is powerful because it moves decision-making from emotion to examination. You may still feel nervous, but you have a reason for your choice. That matters. A decision does not become good simply because you feel confident about it. A decision becomes stronger when it is based on clear facts, realistic expectations, and personal responsibility. Another useful practice is to stop asking broad questions. Instead of asking someone, "What should I do with my life?" ask something specific. What skills are most useful for this type of work? Instead of asking, "Should I quit?" ask, "What problems should I examine before leaving this position?" Specific questions produce useful answers. Broad questions often make you dependent on someone else's judgment. You should also pay attention to who you ask. Not every opinion deserves equal weight. Someone who has never managed money may not be the best person to guide your financial decisions. Someone who avoids difficult conversations may not give you useful advice about communication. Someone who has never built the skill you want may understand your feelings but not know the process. Respect does not require equal weight for every opinion. Choose advisors based on experience, character, and relevance. Look at what their actions show. If you want to learn discipline, study someone who consistently manages their responsibilities. If you want to improve your communication, learn from someone who handles difficult conversations calmly. Their behavior gives you stronger evidence than their impressive words. There is another reason to trust yourself. Your circumstances are different from everyone else's. Two people can receive the same advice and need different decisions. One person may have enough savings to take a risk. Another may have family responsibilities that require stability. One person may have several hours available for learning. Another may have limited time because of work. Good advice must be adjusted to real circumstances. This means you need to understand your own situation deeply. Know your responsibilities. Know your strengths. Know your weaknesses. Know how much time you actually have. Know what you can afford to lose. Know what matters to you. Self-trust becomes more reliable when it is based on honest self-knowledge. Try keeping a decision journal for the next 30 days. Every time you face an important choice, write down the decision before asking anyone for an opinion. Record why you are leaning toward that choice. Write down what result you expect. Then decide whether outside information is actually necessary. After some time has passed, review the result. This teaches you something most people never study. It shows you how your own judgment performs. Maybe you discover that you are usually good at judging people, but too optimistic about time. Maybe you notice that you make strong decisions about work, but become uncertain during conflict. Maybe you realize that you often predict the worst outcome, and then discover that the situation was manageable. These patterns are valuable because they tell you where your judgment needs improvement. Self-trust does not mean believing every thought that enters your mind. Some thoughts are based on fear. Some come from old experiences. Some appear because you are tired. A strong decision-maker learns to separate an emotional reaction from useful evidence. Give yourself time before making important choices when emotions are extremely high. Sleep before sending an angry message. Review numbers before spending a large amount of money. Wait before making a major decision during intense disappointment. You are not ignoring your feelings. You are giving yourself enough space to make a better judgment. You also need to become comfortable saying, "I do not know yet." This sentence is a sign of maturity, not weakness. Pretending to know everything creates poor decisions. Admitting uncertainty allows you to gather better information. You can say, "I need more information before I decide." Then you can research, ask a qualified person, and return to the decision with greater clarity. There will be moments when people disagree with you. That does not automatically mean your decision is wrong. Their disagreement is simply additional information. Examine it. Ask what they see that you may have missed. If they identify a real weakness, adjust your plan. If their criticism is based only on preference, fear, or assumption, you can respectfully leave it aside. This is where self-respect becomes practical. You do not become stubborn just because you refuse approval. You become thoughtful. You listen carefully without surrendering responsibility. You remain open to correction without becoming controlled by criticism. Today, choose one small decision that you normally ask someone else to make. Make it yourself. Use the facts you have. Accept that the choice may not be perfect. Then observe the result. Do this repeatedly with small decisions before applying the same discipline to larger ones. Your goal is not to become someone who never needs help. Your goal is to become someone who knows when help is useful and when personal judgment is enough. Every independent decision gives you information about yourself. Every honest review improves your judgment. Every corrected mistake makes your next choice more informed. Over time, you develop something more valuable than constant approval. You develop the ability to stand behind a reasonable decision while remaining willing to learn. That is the kind of trust you can carry into work, relationships, money, learning, and every serious part of your life. You stop asking, "Will everyone agree with me?" You start asking, "Have I examined this honestly? And am I willing to take responsibility for what I choose?" That question puts your life back where it belongs, in your own hands. Chapter 3. Prove your strength through small daily decisions. Strong character is built through ordinary choices that most people never notice. You do not discover your strength only during serious problems. You see it in what you do during a normal Tuesday morning when nobody is watching. The decision to get out of bed on time matters. The decision to finish a task before entertainment matters. The decision to control your words during irritation matters. Small choices reveal whether your intentions have become part of your behavior. Many people wait for a major opportunity to prove themselves. They imagine that confidence will appear after a promotion, a successful business, a large achievement, or public recognition. Daily life does not work that way. Your larger results are usually connected to dozens of small decisions that were made long before anyone noticed the result. The quality of those decisions gradually shapes your habits, your skills, your relationships, and your opinion of yourself. Start by paying attention to decisions that appear too small to matter. You wake up and see several notifications. You can immediately open them, or you can complete the first important part of your morning. You sit down to work and feel slightly bored. You can change activities every few minutes, or you can remain with one task until a clear piece of work is finished. Someone sends an irritating message. You can answer while angry, or you can wait until your mind is calmer. None of these choices looks impressive. That is exactly why they are useful. Your daily decisions train your response patterns. Each time you choose the easier reaction, that reaction becomes easier to repeat. Each time you pause and choose the more responsible response, you make that response more familiar. You are not only completing a task, you are practicing a way of behaving. This gives you a practical rule for personal growth. Do not ask whether a decision is impressive. Ask what behavior the decision is training. Checking your phone for 30 minutes before starting work trains immediate entertainment. Preparing your clothes the night before trains preparation. Completing a difficult task before a comfortable activity trains priority. Spending money without checking your budget trains impulsiveness. Taking 5 minutes to review your day trains awareness. The same amount of time can produce very different results depending on what behavior it reinforces. You can use this idea to change your routine without trying to rebuild your entire life in one day. Pick one area where you repeatedly disappoint yourself. Make the daily decisions smaller. If you want to read more, do not begin with an unrealistic target. Read 5 pages every day. If you want to exercise, begin with a short session that you can repeat consistently. If you want to control spending, review every purchase before paying instead of promising that you will never spend unnecessarily again. The purpose of starting small is not to lower your standards. It is to create a reliable pattern that can survive ordinary life. A difficult plan can work for 3 days when excitement is high. A simple plan can continue for months because it requires less negotiation. Once the behavior becomes stable, you can increase the difficulty. This is a more practical way to build discipline than repeatedly making extreme promises. You should also create a few personal rules for decisions that repeatedly cause trouble. A rule reduces the number of times you have to debate with yourself. For example, you may decide that important work comes before social media in the morning. You may decide that you do not buy something immediately when you feel emotional. You may decide that you never send an angry message without reading it again after some time. You may decide that you prepare tomorrow's priorities before going to sleep. These rules protect you during moments when your judgment is weaker. Notice something important about this approach. You are not depending on motivation. You are changing the conditions around your decisions. That makes improvement more practical. A person who keeps unhealthy snacks beside the desk has created one type of environment. A person who keeps useful materials ready has created another. Your surroundings influence what choices require effort. Look around your room today. What decisions does your environment make easy? What decisions does it make difficult? Your phone may be beside your bed. Your study materials may be buried in a drawer. Your exercise clothes may be somewhere difficult to reach. Your work area may contain several distractions. Change the environment before blaming yourself. Put the phone farther away during focused work. Keep the book you want to read where you normally sit. Prepare what you need before starting a task. Remove unnecessary notifications. Keep a simple written list of the day's most important responsibilities. These changes reduce the number of decisions between you and the behavior you want. There is another useful lesson about small decisions. You should not measure your strength only by how much discomfort you can tolerate. Good decision-making also means knowing when discomfort is unnecessary. You do not become stronger by making every task harder. You become stronger by choosing what deserves your effort. For example, spending hours arguing with someone online does not prove strength. Walking away may be the stronger decision. Staying awake late to prove that you can work without rest may feel disciplined, but protecting your sleep may support better performance tomorrow. Refusing every form of entertainment does not automatically make you productive. Choosing entertainment after completing your responsibilities can be a balanced decision. Strength requires judgment, not constant suffering. Keep a daily decision scorecard for 1 week. At night, choose 3 decisions that mattered. Write what you chose and why. Then ask whether the choice supported the person you are trying to become. Do not write long explanations. A few honest sentences are enough. You may discover that your biggest problem is not lack of ability. It may be repeated small decisions that drain your time. You may notice that you start the day with your phone, delay difficult work, spend too much time reacting to messages, and then feel frustrated at night because important tasks remain unfinished. That pattern can be changed, one decision at a time. Do not try to correct every weakness simultaneously. Choose one repeated decision and change it for 7 days. Then examine the result. This gives you a clear experiment rather than a vague promise. Suppose you often delay difficult work until the evening. For 1 week, complete 20 minutes of that task before checking entertainment. At first, the task may feel uncomfortable. Your mind may search for something easier. You may suddenly remember small things that need attention. Stay with the planned 20 minutes. After 7 days, examine what happened. Did the task become easier to start? Did you finish more work? Did your evening feel less stressful? Did you become more willing to begin difficult tasks? These observations are more useful than simply saying, "You need more discipline." This is how you learn from your own life. You should also understand that keeping a promise to yourself does not require perfection. You will miss days. You will make poor choices. You will become tired. The important response is to return quickly instead of turning one mistake into a week of neglect. A missed workout does not require abandoning your health routine. A distracted morning does not require wasting the entire day. A poor financial decision does not require ignoring your budget. Correct the next decision as soon as you can. The speed of your recovery matters. A person who makes mistakes but returns to responsible behavior can make more progress than someone who creates perfect plans but becomes discouraged after one failure. This is why your daily decisions should include recovery decisions. After a bad choice, ask what the next useful action is. Then take it. You also need to notice decisions made under pressure. Someone may ask you for your time when you already have important work. You may feel uncomfortable saying no. Instead of answering immediately, give yourself a moment. Say that you need to check your schedule. This small pause gives you room to decide rather than react. The ability to pause is one of the simplest forms of personal control. You can practice it in ordinary situations. Pause before buying. Pause before replying. Pause before agreeing. Pause before quitting. During that short space, identify what you actually want to achieve. A few seconds can prevent many decisions that create hours of regret. Your strength becomes visible through these moments because they show whether you can act according to your priorities rather than your immediate feelings. At the end of each day, ask yourself one direct question. Which decision today made my life better tomorrow? Maybe you prepared your work for the morning. Maybe you refused an unnecessary expense. Maybe you apologized instead of defending yourself. Maybe you studied when you wanted to relax. Maybe you stopped an argument before it became worse. These choices may never receive public recognition, but they improve the person making them. After enough repetition, something changes in your behavior. Difficult choices require less internal debate. You begin doing certain things without negotiating with yourself every time. Your morning routine becomes familiar. Your work habits become more stable. Your spending becomes more controlled. Your responses become more deliberate. That is practical strength. You do not need to prove your value to strangers through dramatic achievements. Start proving your reliability to yourself through the choices that fill an ordinary day. Make the responsible decision when it is small. Repeat it when it becomes boring. Correct yourself when you fail. Raise the standard gradually as your behavior becomes stronger. One day, you will notice that the person you wanted to become is no longer only an idea. Your daily choices have started giving that person a real place in your life. Chapter 4. Face your fears instead of avoiding them. Fear can make a reasonable person behave in ways that do not match their real ability. You may know what needs to be done and still delay it because the emotional cost feels high. You may avoid a conversation, postpone an application, refuse to learn something difficult, or stay in a situation that no longer helps you because the familiar feels safer. Fear does not always tell you to stop because something is dangerous. Sometimes it tells you to stop because something is unfamiliar. This distinction matters. Some fear protects you from real danger. Other fear protects you from discomfort. You need to learn the difference instead of treating every fearful feeling as a command. Start by identifying exactly what you are afraid of. Do not use a vague statement such as, "I am scared of failure." Be specific. Are you afraid that someone will criticize you? Are you afraid of looking inexperienced? Are you afraid of losing money? Are you afraid that your work will not be good enough? Are you afraid of disappointing someone? A specific fear can be examined. A vague fear can control your entire day without being challenged. Write down one situation you have been avoiding. Then complete this sentence. I am avoiding this because I believe. Finish it honestly. You may discover that your real concern is not the event itself. You may be worried about what the event will mean about you. A person may avoid applying for a better job because they believe rejection will prove they are not capable. Another person may avoid speaking in front of a group because they believe one mistake will make everyone remember them negatively. Someone else may avoid starting a business because they believe losing money will mean they made a foolish decision. In each case, the fear contains an assumption that needs to be examined. Ask yourself whether that assumption is actually supported by evidence. One rejection does not establish your total ability. One awkward conversation does not define your communication skills. One failed project does not describe your entire future. A poor result gives you information about one attempt under particular conditions. Your mind may turn that single event into a permanent judgment. Your job is to separate the event from the story you attach to it. Fear becomes easier to manage when you stop treating predictions as facts. There is also a practical mistake people make with fear. They wait until they feel ready before acting. Readiness often comes after exposure, not before it. You become more comfortable speaking by speaking. You become better at difficult conversations by having them. You become more capable at unfamiliar work by practicing it. This means your first attempt does not need to be impressive. Its job is to give you experience. Use gradual exposure instead of forcing yourself into the hardest situation immediately. If making phone calls makes you nervous, start with one simple call. If speaking to new people feels difficult, begin with a short conversation. If you fear sharing your work publicly, show it first to one trusted person. If you are afraid of asking for an opportunity, practice the request alone and then make one real attempt. The goal is to teach your nervous system through experience that the situation can be handled. There is a useful difference between discomfort and danger. Discomfort may include a fast heartbeat, dry mouth, nervous thoughts, or the desire to escape. These sensations can be unpleasant without being harmful. Danger requires a different response. You should not use personal growth as an excuse to ignore genuine risks. Before facing a fear, ask 3 practical questions. What is the actual risk? What is the worst realistic result? What can I do to reduce that risk? These questions bring the situation back to reality. Perhaps the worst realistic result is that someone says no. Perhaps you lose a small amount of money that you already decided you could afford to risk. Perhaps the conversation becomes uncomfortable for 10 minutes. Once the real consequence is clear, the fear often becomes easier to evaluate. You can also prepare for situations that genuinely deserve preparation. Fear often grows when you feel unprepared. Study the subject. Practice your presentation. Write down the points you need to discuss. Check the numbers. Ask someone experienced to review your plan. Preparation does not guarantee success, but it gives your mind evidence that you have taken the situation seriously. Do not confuse preparation with endless delay. Some people keep preparing because preparation feels safer than action. They read another article, watch another video, create another plan, and wait for complete confidence. At some point, more preparation stops adding useful information. You need to move from learning to testing. Set a clear preparation limit. Spend the necessary time learning what you need. Then take a small real action. The result will teach you something that preparation alone cannot teach. You should also notice how avoidance changes over time. Avoiding a difficult task may give you relief for a few minutes. That relief can teach your brain that avoidance works. The next time the situation appears, the urge to escape may become stronger. This is why procrastination can become a repeated pattern. The immediate relief rewards the delay, even though the long-term result becomes worse. The practical solution is to stop rewarding avoidance with unlimited comfort. Take the smallest action that moves you toward the situation. Open the document. Write the first sentence. Make the first call. Send the short email. Enter the room. Ask the question. Once you begin, the situation often becomes more concrete and less frightening. You do not have to feel brave for the entire task. You only need enough control to take the next useful step. Another important lesson is that fear often increases when you keep your attention on yourself. You wonder how you sound, how you look, whether people are judging you, and whether you are making a mistake. Shift your attention toward the purpose of the action. During a presentation, focus on making the information clear. During a difficult conversation, focus on understanding the other person's position and explaining yours calmly. During an interview, focus on answering accurately instead of trying to appear perfect. Purpose reduces unnecessary self-monitoring. You can practice this every day. During one uncomfortable situation, deliberately focus on the task rather than your internal performance. Notice the other person's words. Notice the facts. Notice what needs to happen next. This simple change can reduce the amount of attention fear receives. There is another fear that deserves special attention. Many people are afraid of being judged for changing. You may want to study, exercise, improve your finances, change your routine, or become more disciplined, but you worry that people will make comments. This can keep you connected to habits that no longer fit your goals. You do not need to argue with everyone who notices your change. You can simply continue. Let your behavior become normal before you explain it. People often adjust to consistent behavior faster than they adjust to long explanations. Fear also becomes easier to manage when you improve your ability to tolerate uncertainty. You cannot know every result before acting. You can research, prepare, and plan, but some information will only become available after you move. Accepting this fact makes decision-making more realistic. Try making a small decision without seeking repeated reassurance. Choose a reasonable option, act, and observe what happens. This gives you direct experience with uncertainty. Over time, you learn that not knowing everything does not mean you are helpless. Keep a fear practice on your daily schedule. Choose one small action that you normally avoid because it makes you uncomfortable. It could be asking for feedback, making a necessary phone call, speaking honestly, starting a difficult task, or admitting that you made a mistake. Do not choose something reckless. Choose something useful that creates manageable discomfort. After completing it, record 4 things. What did I expect? What actually happened? What did I learn? What will I do differently next time? This turns fear into a learning exercise. You may be surprised by the results. The situation may go better than expected. It may be difficult but manageable. It may go badly and teach you exactly what you need to improve. All 3 outcomes are useful because they replace imagination with experience. Your goal is not to eliminate fear from your life. That is unrealistic. Your goal is to stop allowing every fearful feeling to make your decisions. There will be days when you hesitate. There will be moments when your hands feel tense and your thoughts move quickly. There may be times when you want to return to what feels familiar. During those moments, remember that courage is not a special personality trait reserved for certain people. It can be practiced through specific behavior. Choose the smallest responsible action. Take it before your mind creates another reason to delay. Learn from what happens, then increase the challenge gradually. The more often you act while feeling uncomfortable, the more accurate your understanding of fear becomes. You learn which risks are real. You learn which worries were exaggerated. You learn where preparation is needed. You learn that an uncomfortable moment can pass without controlling the rest of your life. That knowledge changes your relationship with yourself. You stop seeing fear as proof that you are weak. You begin seeing it as information that needs to be examined. Your life does not become easier because every fear disappears. It becomes stronger because you become more capable of deciding what deserves your attention. Take one useful action today that fear has been delaying. Let the result teach you. Then use what you learned to take the next step with greater clarity. Chapter 5. Stop comparing your life with other people. Comparison can make you feel behind even when your life is moving forward. You can complete something difficult in the morning and feel satisfied for a few minutes, then open your phone and see someone else's achievement. Suddenly your progress looks small. Nothing about your life changed during those few seconds. Only the standard you were using to judge it changed. This is why comparison deserves careful attention. The problem is not noticing other people's success. Their progress can teach you useful lessons. The problem begins when you use someone else's visible result as a measurement of your personal worth without knowing their circumstances, history, resources, responsibilities, or struggles. A better way to understand comparison is to see it as an information problem. You rarely have the complete picture. You see someone's income but not their expenses. You see their confidence, but not their private worries. You see their finished work, but not the years they spent learning. You see a new position, but not the opportunities that helped them reach it. You are making a judgment from incomplete data. That judgment can affect your decisions. You may rush into a career because someone your age seems successful. You may spend money to look successful. You may abandon a skill because another person learned faster. You may become impatient with your own progress because another person's timeline looks better. The first practical step is to stop using age as a deadline for achievement. Age can provide useful context, but it does not tell you what you should have accomplished by today. People begin careers at different times. They face different family responsibilities. They receive different education. They have different financial conditions. Their opportunities arrive at different moments. Your useful question is not, why am I not where they are? Ask, what can I improve from where I am? That question immediately gives you something to work with. Suppose you see someone who is physically healthier than you. You can spend an hour feeling bad about yourself, or you can study what behaviors contribute to their result. Maybe they walk every morning. Maybe they prepare meals in advance. Maybe they sleep consistently. Take the useful behavior without turning the person into a measurement of your value. This is an important distinction. Learn from people without ranking yourself beneath them. You can admire someone's progress without declaring yourself unsuccessful. Their achievement does not reduce your ability to improve. In fact, another person's result can become useful evidence that a certain result is possible. Study the process instead of staring at the outcome. Social media makes this especially difficult because it presents selected information. People usually show completed projects, celebrations, travel, achievements, attractive moments, and positive news. They rarely provide a complete record of their boring days, failed attempts, debt, arguments, uncertainty, or long periods of slow progress. Your mind can forget this within seconds. A practical experiment can help. For 7 days, notice how you feel immediately before and after using social media. You do not need to judge the platforms or make a dramatic decision. Record your mood and attention. Notice whether you become focused, distracted, encouraged, anxious, impatient, or dissatisfied. The purpose is to learn how certain inputs affect your behavior. If you repeatedly notice that comparison makes you abandon your priorities, create boundaries, Remove unnecessary accounts. Reduce the number of times you check updates. Keep your phone away during important work. Give yourself specific times for entertainment rather than allowing comparison to enter every empty moment. Your attention is limited. Where you place it affects what you notice about your own life. Another practical method is to create a personal scoreboard. Choose 3 areas that matter to you. They might be learning, health, work, relationships, finances, or personal discipline. Define one measurable behavior for each area. For learning, you might track study sessions. For health, you might track walks or workouts. For work, you might track important tasks completed. For finances, you might track savings or spending. For relationships, you might track meaningful conversations or time spent with family. Now your progress has a reference point. You are no longer asking whether you look successful compared with strangers. You are checking whether your actions are improving according to standards you deliberately chose. This also reveals a lesser-known problem with comparison. Sometimes people compare outcomes when they should compare processes. You may compare your salary with another person's salary without comparing skills, experience, industry, hours, responsibilities, or career decisions. That comparison cannot teach you much because the variables are different. Process comparison is more useful. Ask what skills the person developed. What habits do they follow? What decisions helped them? What mistakes did they avoid? What can you learn from their method? This turns envy into education. You should also be careful about comparing your beginning with someone else's middle. A person who has practiced something for 10 years will probably perform better than someone who started 6 months ago. That is not evidence of permanent inferiority. It is evidence of accumulated practice. Skill develops through repeated exposure and correction. Your early attempts are supposed to look different from your later attempts. If you expect professional results immediately, you create frustration that has nothing to do with your actual potential. Give yourself enough time to become competent. There is another form of comparison that happens inside families and friendships. Someone may ask why you are not earning as much as another person. Someone may mention another person's marriage, career, home, education, or lifestyle. These comments can create pressure even when they are not intentionally harmful. You do not have to turn every comparison into an argument. You can calmly return to your own priorities. You can say that you are working toward a different goal. Then continue making decisions based on your actual circumstances. Your life needs standards that are meaningful to you. This does not mean lowering your ambition. It means making your ambition specific. Instead of saying, "I want to be more successful than them," decide what success means in measurable terms. Perhaps you want a certain skill. Perhaps you want stable finances. Perhaps you want more control over your schedule. Perhaps you want stronger relationships. Perhaps you want to become dependable under pressure. Clear goals reduce meaningless comparison because you know what you are actually working toward. You can also create a weekly review that asks better questions. What did I learn this week? What did I complete? Where did I waste time? What decision helped me? What behavior created problems? What will I change next week? Notice that none of these questions requires another person's life. This is important because comparison often creates an emotional reaction without creating a useful action. You see someone ahead and feel pressure. but pressure alone does not tell you what to do. A personal review converts emotion into information. There will still be moments when someone else's success bothers you. Do not pretend otherwise. Envy can contain useful information when you examine it honestly. Ask what exactly you want from the situation. Maybe you do not actually want their life. You may want the freedom they appear to have. You may want the recognition. You may want the skill. You may want financial security. Once you identify the real desire, you can work on your own version of it. This is far more productive than simply wishing you were that person. You should also learn to celebrate progress that is invisible to other people. Maybe you used to spend every evening scrolling, and now you read for 30 minutes. Maybe you once avoided difficult conversations, and now you handle them directly. Maybe you used to spend without planning, and now you check your budget. Maybe you once gave up after mistakes, and now you return to the task. These changes may never appear in a public post. They still matter. Personal growth is often difficult to notice because you live inside the process. Other people may notice a difference before you do. That is another reason to keep records. Write down your starting point. Record important habits, skills, and measurable results. Review them every few months. Memory is not always a reliable measurement of progress. You may remember your recent struggles more clearly than your earlier ones. Written records give you a more accurate reference. Do not use comparison to decide whether you deserve confidence. Use evidence from your own development. Each week, choose one area where you want to improve. Study someone who is better than you in that area. Learn their methods. Test one method in your own life. Measure what happens. Keep what works. Change what does not. That is a healthy relationship with other people's success. You do not need to look away from everyone who is ahead. You need to look differently. Their progress can become a source of information instead of a reason for self-criticism. Your life has its own responsibilities, opportunities, limits and possibilities. Respect those realities. Build according to them. Measure your behavior against the person you were becoming yesterday rather than against a carefully selected version of someone else's life. The goal is not to become unconcerned about achievement. The goal is to become focused enough to know which achievements are actually yours to pursue. Once that becomes clear, other people's timelines lose much of their power over your decisions. You can appreciate their progress and return to your work. You can learn from their habits and keep your own direction. You can see someone ahead without deciding that you are behind. Your attention belongs to your life. Use it to build something real. Chapter 6. Keep going when nobody notices your effort. Progress becomes more meaningful when you continue working even when nobody notices what you are doing. A large part of personal growth happens without an audience. You study after a long day and nobody knows. You save money while other people spend freely and nobody congratulates you. You practice a skill for months before anyone calls you talented. You improve your habits quietly while the people around you continue seeing the older version of you. This is where many people stop. They work hard for a while, receive little recognition, and begin questioning whether the effort is worth it. The problem is not always a lack of ability. Often the problem is that they expected progress to produce visible rewards too quickly. They wanted evidence from other people before they had given their work enough time to produce evidence in their own life. You need to understand how delayed results work. Many useful activities have a gap between effort and visible improvement. Learning a language may require months before conversations feel natural. Saving a small amount of money may seem meaningless during the first few weeks. Strength training may produce little visible change at the beginning. Reading every day may not immediately change your thinking. The work is happening before the result becomes obvious. This delay can make useful behavior feel ineffective. A practical way to handle this is to measure inputs before outcomes. Instead of asking whether you have already achieved the final result, ask whether you completed the behaviors that create the result. If your goal is to become healthier, track the number of workouts completed and the quality of your sleep. If you want to improve a skill, record your practice time and the specific exercises you completed. If you want to improve financially, track saving and spending decisions. If you want to become a better writer, count focused writing sessions rather than waiting for people to praise your work. This changes the question from, "Why has nothing happened yet?" to, "Am I doing the work that should eventually create change?" That question gives you control. There is another reason people struggle during quiet periods of progress. They confuse recognition with evidence. Someone praising you can feel encouraging, but praise is not a measurement of whether your behavior is working. A person may receive attention for something that has little long-term value. Another person may spend months developing something important without receiving any attention at all. Your work needs a stronger measurement system than applause. Create private standards for yourself. Decide what consistent effort looks like before you begin. If you are learning, choose a number of practice sessions. If you are building a business skill, choose specific tasks that must be completed each week. If you are improving your health, establish behaviors that you can realistically maintain. Then judge yourself according to those standards. This is especially important because other people cannot see your entire effort. They may see you after the work is done and assume the result came easily. They may see your improved fitness without seeing the mornings you exercised. They may see your professional confidence without knowing how many times you practiced. They may notice your financial stability without knowing how many unnecessary purchases you refused. Do not expect people to understand work they never witnessed. Your responsibility is not to make everyone aware of your effort. Your responsibility is to make the effort worthwhile. There is also a practical danger in constantly announcing your progress. Talking about what you are going to accomplish can sometimes create a temporary feeling of achievement. You tell people about the new routine, you explain the plan, you describe the future result, you receive encouragement. For a short time, your brain can feel as though something important has already happened. Then the actual work begins without the same emotional excitement. You can protect yourself from this by giving more attention to completion than announcement. Keep a private record. Let your actions accumulate before you seek an audience. This does not mean you should reject support. Good support can be valuable. A coach, teacher, friend, or family member can help you stay accountable. The difference is that accountability helps you continue, while attention-seeking makes recognition part of the reward. Learn to enjoy completion itself. There is a quiet satisfaction in finishing something you promised yourself you would do. You close the book after studying, you finish the workout, you complete the report, you transfer the money into savings, you practice the difficult skill again. Nobody has to see that moment for it to matter. That private satisfaction becomes important because long-term goals contain many ordinary days. You cannot depend on excitement for every session. You need to become comfortable doing useful work during periods that feel emotionally ordinary. This is one of the lesser-known skills behind consistency. You must learn to work without needing a strong emotional reason every time. Some days will feel productive, other days will feel slow. Your standard should not change dramatically based on your mood. On a difficult day, you may reduce the amount of work while keeping the habit alive. Instead of abandoning the routine completely, complete the minimum useful version. If you normally study for 1 hour and you are exhausted, study for 15 focused minutes. If you usually exercise for 40 minutes and your schedule becomes crowded, take a short walk. If you normally write 1,000 words and you have little energy, write a small section. The point is not to make every day equally productive. The point is to prevent one difficult day from becoming a complete break from the behavior. You should also learn to recognize invisible progress. Some improvement happens inside your decision-making before it appears in your results. You may notice that you recover from criticism faster. You may pause before reacting angrily. You may understand a difficult topic more quickly. You may need less time to begin important work. You may recognize a bad habit earlier than before. These changes are easy to ignore because they do not produce dramatic evidence. Yet they can be strong signs that your character and skills are developing. Keep notes about these changes. A simple weekly review is enough. Write what became easier. Write what required less effort. Write what you handled better. Write where you still struggled. This record gives you something useful during periods when external feedback is limited. There will also be times when nobody understands why you are working so hard. Someone may tell you to relax. Someone may say you are taking things too seriously. Someone may wonder why you spend so much time learning something that has not produced money or recognition yet. Listen respectfully, but examine whether their opinion is relevant to your goal. A person who values immediate comfort may not understand your decision to accept temporary difficulty. That does not make them a bad person. It simply means they may be using a different standard. You need to know your own reason clearly. A strong reason does not need to be dramatic. You may want greater financial stability. You may want to become more capable at your work. You may want to support your family better. You may want to become proud of how you use your time. You may simply want to know what you are capable of after giving yourself an honest opportunity. Write your reason down. Read it during periods when the work feels ordinary. Not because words will magically create energy, but because a clear reason helps you remember why the behavior deserves your time. You should also stop expecting every effort to succeed. Persistence does not mean repeating the same method forever. If something is not working, study the process. Change the strategy. Ask for useful feedback. Improve the skill. Test another approach. There is a major difference between persistence and stubborn repetition. Persistence means staying committed to the important goal while remaining willing to change your method. If you study for months without improving, do not simply study the same way for another year. Find the weakness. Perhaps you need more practice. Perhaps you need better instruction. Perhaps you are focusing on the wrong material. Your commitment should be stable while your methods remain flexible. That approach allows you to continue without becoming trapped in ineffective habits. You can practice this today by choosing one important activity that currently receives little recognition. Decide what a successful week looks like. Write down the specific behaviors. Remove unnecessary distractions around those behaviors. Complete the work without waiting for someone to notice. At the end of the week, review what happened. Do not ask whether everyone was impressed. Ask whether you became more capable. That is the measurement that matters. Your life will contain many periods where the results are quiet. There may be months when nobody compliments your discipline. There may be long stretches where improvement feels almost invisible. Those periods do not mean your effort has no value. They mean you are being asked to continue without external confirmation. Learn to do that well. The person who can continue useful work without constant recognition becomes difficult to distract. Their progress no longer depends entirely on attention from other people. They can study in private, practice in private, save in private, improve in private. Then one day the results become visible because enough ordinary effort has accumulated. Keep working while the evidence is still small. Keep learning while your skill is still developing. Keep improving while the changes are difficult to notice. Your effort does not need an audience to be real. Give your work enough time to become visible. Chapter 7. Choose yourself when doubt starts taking over. Self-doubt can become dangerous when you start treating every uncertain thought as a reason to stop. Doubt often appears before important decisions because the outcome is not guaranteed. You may question your ability, your timing, your preparation, or your direction. That feeling does not automatically mean you should quit. Sometimes it simply means the decision matters to you and you do not yet know what will happen. The important skill is learning how to examine doubt instead of obeying it. A doubtful thought can sound convincing because it often uses familiar information. You remember an old mistake. You remember someone's criticism. You notice another person's success. You look at your current limitations, then your mind creates a prediction about what will happen next. The prediction feels real because it is connected to something you have experienced, but a prediction is still a prediction. Start separating facts from interpretations. Suppose you tell yourself, "I am not good enough for this opportunity." What is the actual fact? Perhaps you have less experience than the person they usually hire. That is information. The statement that you are not good enough is an interpretation. It may or may not be true. This distinction gives you room to act. Write down one doubtful thought that has been affecting your decisions. Under it, write 3 facts that support the thought and 3 facts that challenge it. Be honest on both sides. Do not create positive statements just to feel better. Look for evidence. You may discover that your doubt is based on one failed attempt from several years ago. You may discover that you have already completed similar tasks. You may realize that you lack one skill but can learn it. You may find that the actual risk is smaller than your emotional reaction suggested. This exercise turns an emotional judgment into a practical investigation. Another useful question is, what would I do if I trusted myself enough to try? Notice that the question does not ask what you would do if you were completely fearless. That standard is unrealistic. It asks what action would become possible if you gave yourself permission to make an honest attempt. Perhaps you would apply. Perhaps you would start learning. Perhaps you would have the conversation. Perhaps you would stop accepting treatment that repeatedly damages your confidence. Perhaps you would give yourself another month to improve before deciding that something is impossible. Choosing yourself does not mean choosing yourself over every person around you. It means refusing to abandon your own legitimate needs simply because you are afraid of disagreement or failure. There are moments when people know exactly what they want, but repeatedly ignore it because they are afraid of disappointing others. They stay in unsuitable situations. They avoid asking for fair treatment. They refuse opportunities because someone might criticize them. They keep their goals small because a larger goal could expose them to judgment. Over time, this creates a painful problem. You become more familiar with other people's expectations than with your own priorities. You can change this by making your values clear. Choose 5 qualities that you want your life to reflect. You might choose honesty, discipline, learning, responsibility, health, independence, kindness, or courage. Then use these qualities when making difficult decisions. Ask which option is more consistent with the person you want to be. This does not make every decision easy, but it gives you a stable reference point when emotions are confusing. Doubt becomes stronger when your standards change according to the people around you. One person praises you, and you feel capable. Another person criticizes you, and you suddenly feel worthless. A third person ignores your work, and you question whether it matters. Your emotional state becomes controlled by external reactions. You need an internal standard. This does not mean becoming insensitive. Feedback still matters. The difference is that feedback becomes information rather than a verdict about your worth. You can listen carefully without allowing one person's reaction to define you. There is also a practical reason to choose yourself during periods of doubt. Waiting too long can reduce your options. A person who spends months questioning whether they should learn a skill loses months of practice. Someone who keeps delaying an important conversation allows the problem to become larger. Someone who waits for perfect confidence may watch an opportunity disappear. Doubt has a cost when it repeatedly delays action. You can reduce that cost by using deadlines for decisions. Give yourself a reasonable amount of time to gather information, then choose. The deadline should match the importance of the decision. A small choice may need minutes. A career decision may need weeks or months. The point is to prevent endless thinking from becoming a permanent lifestyle. You should also distinguish thoughtful reflection from mental repetition. Reflection produces new information. Repeating the same fear without adding evidence does not. Ask yourself whether you have learned anything new during the last hour of thinking. If the answer is no, it may be time to take an action instead of continuing to analyze. Action creates information. You may learn that the person responds better than expected. You may discover that your skill is weaker than you thought and needs work. You may find that the opportunity is not suitable. You may learn that your fear was exaggerated. Each result gives you something concrete. This is why choosing yourself requires movement. Do not make the mistake of believing that every decision must lead to success. Choosing yourself means giving yourself a fair opportunity to learn and act. You can make the wrong choice and still respect yourself afterward if you examine the result honestly and take responsibility. A mature person does not need to be right every time. A mature person needs to be willing to correct themselves. You can build this ability through small commitments. Choose one thing each day that matters to you and complete it before allowing other people's opinions to influence your attention. This could be 20 minutes of study, one important work task, a difficult conversation, a health habit, or a financial decision. The purpose is to practice giving your own priorities a place in your schedule. Your schedule communicates what you consider important. If your priorities always come after everyone else's requests, your self-respect will suffer. You may tell yourself that your goals matter, but your behavior will teach you something different. Protect a small amount of time for yourself every day. Use that time for development rather than constant entertainment. Read something useful. Practice a skill. Exercise. Plan your finances. Review your responsibilities. Work on something you have been avoiding. This is not selfish. It is maintenance for your ability to function well. Another powerful practice is learning to make decisions before asking for opinions. Choose a small decision that normally makes you uncertain. Decide what you believe first. Then ask someone for feedback. Compare their response with your original reasoning. This teaches you how to use advice without becoming dependent on it. Over time, you will discover where your judgment is strong and where it needs improvement. That knowledge is more valuable than simply hearing people tell you what to do. Doubt also becomes easier to handle when you stop demanding certainty about your identity. You do not need to know exactly who you will become. You only need to know what behavior you want to practice now. You can be inexperienced and still begin. You can be nervous and still communicate clearly. You can be uncertain and still research the problem. You can be imperfect and still take responsibility. Your current limitations do not need to become permanent definitions. A person who says, "I cannot do this yet," is making a very different statement from someone who says, "I cannot do this." The first statement leaves room for learning. The second closes the discussion before learning begins. Use language that accurately describes your current position. Instead of saying you are bad at something, say you are still learning it. Instead of saying you always fail, identify the specific situation where you struggled. Instead of saying you are not confident, identify the action you are avoiding. Specific language creates specific work. There will be moments when doubt becomes intense. Your chest may feel tight. Your thoughts may become negative. You may want to delay the decision until tomorrow. During those moments, reduce the task to one manageable action. Open the document. Write the first paragraph. Make the appointment. Ask the question. Spend 10 minutes studying. Put the plan on paper. Do not try to solve your entire future during one emotional moment. Choose the next useful action and let the next piece of evidence guide you. Choosing yourself is not about always feeling strong. It is about refusing to let temporary uncertainty make permanent decisions for you. Your feelings can be heard without being placed in charge. You will become more secure as you repeatedly see yourself respond to doubt with responsible behavior. Each experience teaches you something about your ability to handle uncertainty. You learn that nervousness can exist alongside action. You learn that mistakes can be repaired. You learn that criticism can be examined. You learn that your direction can change without your entire identity falling apart. That is a much stronger form of confidence than simply telling yourself that everything will work out. Give yourself the chance to become more capable before deciding that you are incapable. Give your goals enough effort before declaring them unrealistic. Give your decisions enough evidence before abandoning them. Your future should not be decided by the loudest doubtful thought in your mind. Let facts guide you. Let values guide you. Let experience teach you. Then make the next decision with enough courage to keep moving. Chapter 8. Accept mistakes without losing faith in yourself. A mistake can hurt your confidence more than the mistake itself. You make the wrong decision, say something you regret, lose an opportunity, miss an important deadline, or perform badly at something you cared about. Then your mind may turn one event into a judgment about your entire ability. The event becomes bigger than the lesson. You stop studying what happened and start questioning who you are. That is where mistakes become more damaging than they need to be. A healthy response to failure begins with accurate language. You made a mistake. That does not mean you are a mistake. You handled one situation poorly. That does not mean you are permanently incapable of handling difficult situations. You made a poor decision with the information you had. That does not mean every future decision will be poor. The distinction sounds simple, but it changes how you recover. Your first responsibility after a mistake is to separate the facts from the emotional reaction. Write down exactly what happened without adding insults toward yourself. Instead of writing, "I ruined everything because I am careless," write, "I missed the deadline because I started the task too late and underestimated the amount of work." The second statement gives you something you can improve. This is one of the most useful habits you can develop. Describe behavior instead of attacking identity. Behavior can be changed. Identity labels can make you feel trapped. Consider what happens after someone loses money because of a poor purchase. They may say, "I am terrible with money." That statement is too broad to be useful. A better review would ask what happened. Did they buy without checking the total cost? Did they ignore their budget? Did they purchase because they were emotional? Did they fail to compare alternatives? Once the exact behavior is visible, the correction becomes possible. You can apply the same process to work, relationships, health, learning, and personal decisions. A mistake should produce a lesson that can change future behavior. If it does not, you may experience the same problem again. Feeling guilty can create temporary emotional pain, but pain alone does not teach you what to do differently. After a mistake, ask 4 questions. What happened? What part was under my control? What information did I miss? What specific behavior will I change next time? These questions create responsibility without self-destruction. The second question is especially important because not every bad outcome is your fault. You may make a reasonable decision and still receive an unexpected result. You may prepare carefully and still lose an opportunity. You may communicate clearly and still be misunderstood. You should take responsibility for what belongs to you without taking responsibility for everything that happened. This is a form of emotional maturity. Some people respond to mistakes by blaming everyone else. Others blame themselves for everything. Neither approach produces good learning. One removes responsibility. The other creates excessive shame. You need a more accurate position. Own your part. Study the rest. Correct what you can control. You should also learn to review mistakes after your emotions have settled. Immediately after failure, your judgment may be distorted. You may feel embarrassed, angry, or disappointed. Those emotions deserve recognition, but they are not always the best environment for analysis. Give yourself enough time to become calmer. Then review the situation while the details are still fresh. Write down the sequence of events. What happened first? What happened next? Where did the problem begin? Which decision changed the direction? What warning signs did you ignore? What information would have helped? This process turns a painful experience into usable information. There is another important lesson about mistakes. Some errors happen because of poor systems rather than weak character. Suppose you repeatedly forget appointments. Calling yourself irresponsible may not solve the problem. Perhaps you rely on memory instead of using a calendar. Perhaps your reminders are too late. Perhaps your schedule contains too many commitments. Change the system. If you repeatedly forget important tasks, create a written list. If you often spend more than planned, set spending limits before you go shopping. If you miss deadlines, break large tasks into smaller deadlines. If you forget what you learn, review it on a schedule. Personal growth becomes easier when you stop treating every problem as a personality defect. Your environment and systems influence your behavior. This does not remove responsibility, it improves it. Instead of saying, "I need to become a completely different person," you ask, "What structure would make the right behavior easier?" That question often produces practical solutions. You also need to understand why embarrassment can make mistakes harder to correct. People sometimes hide errors because they want to protect their image. They avoid telling someone about a problem. They delay asking for help. They pretend everything is fine. The problem then becomes larger. Early honesty is often less painful than late repair. If you made an error that affects another person, acknowledge it clearly. Explain what happened without creating a long list of excuses. State what you will do to correct it. Then take the action. A simple statement can be powerful. "I made a mistake. I should have checked this earlier. I understand the problem, and I will correct it by doing this." That response shows responsibility. You do not need to insult yourself to prove that you regret something. Excessive self-criticism can sometimes become another way of focusing on yourself instead of repairing the damage. Repair matters more than punishment. The same principle applies internally. If you break a personal commitment, do not spend the entire day attacking yourself. Identify what caused the failure and make the next responsible decision. Maybe you planned to study but spent the evening watching videos. The useful response is not to declare the day ruined. Decide when you will study next. Reduce the distraction. Make the session specific. Start. Your recovery speed matters more than your ability to avoid every mistake. Nobody makes perfect decisions every day. People who appear confident also misjudge situations, lose opportunities, misunderstand others, waste time, and make poor choices. The difference is often how they respond afterward. Some people turn one mistake into a long period of avoidance. Others use the mistake to improve their method and return to action. You can train yourself to become the second type. Create a personal mistake review once a week. Choose one error that taught you something. Write what happened and what you learned. Then identify one change that will reduce the chance of repeating it. Do not collect mistakes just to feel bad about them. Collect lessons. After several weeks, you may notice patterns. Perhaps you consistently underestimate how long tasks take. Perhaps you make decisions when tired. Perhaps you avoid difficult conversations until problems become larger. Perhaps you spend too much time reacting and not enough time planning. Patterns are valuable because they reveal problems that one isolated mistake cannot explain. Once you see a pattern, create a rule. If you underestimate time, add extra time to future plans. If you make poor decisions when exhausted, postpone major choices until you have rested. If you avoid conversations, schedule them earlier instead of waiting for the problem to become severe. If you spend impulsively, create a waiting period before non-essential purchases. Your past can become useful when it changes your future behavior. Another mistake people make is expecting confidence to survive without being tested. You cannot build strong self-belief by avoiding every situation where you might fail. You build it by experiencing failure and discovering that you can recover. That experience is important. You apply for something and get rejected. You survive. You learn how to improve the next application. You attempt a difficult skill and perform poorly. You survive. You identify what needs practice. You make a poor decision and face the consequences. You repair what you can. You change your process. Each experience teaches you that failure is not the same as permanent defeat. This does not mean every failure should be celebrated. Some failures are costly. Some hurt other people. Some create serious consequences. Treat them seriously. Learn from them. Repair what can be repaired, but do not add unnecessary suffering by turning one event into a permanent attack on your character. Your goal is accountability with self-respect. You can hold yourself to a high standard while still allowing yourself to learn. In fact, high standards become more useful when mistakes are treated as information rather than as reasons to give up. Take a recent mistake that still bothers you. Write the facts. Identify your responsibility. Identify what was outside your control. Find the lesson. Create one new rule or behavior based on that lesson. Then take one action that puts the lesson into practice. That is how you move forward without pretending the mistake did not happen. You do not need to erase every painful experience from your memory. Some mistakes should remain reminders of what you learned. The goal is to remember them without being controlled by them. Your confidence should not depend on having a perfect record. It should depend on knowing that you can face an imperfect record honestly, learn from it, and continue becoming better. A person who never makes mistakes may simply be avoiding difficult responsibilities. A person who makes mistakes, studies them, repairs what they can, and improves their behavior is developing something much more valuable. You can respect yourself while admitting that you were wrong. You can correct your behavior without attacking your worth. You can accept disappointment without abandoning your goals. Your mistake is part of your experience. It does not have to become the definition of your life. Take the lesson seriously, make the correction specific, and give yourself enough courage to try again with better knowledge. Chapter 9. Build confidence by keeping promises to yourself. Confidence becomes much stronger when you can rely on your own word. You can read hundreds of books about confidence and listen to hours of encouraging speeches, but your daily behavior still decides whether you trust yourself. Every promise you make creates an expectation inside you. Every promise you keep provides evidence that you are dependable. Every promise you repeatedly break teaches you to question your own decisions. This is why the promises you make privately deserve serious attention. Most people focus on promises made to other people because those promises have immediate consequences. You do not want to disappoint your manager, your friend, your partner, or your family. But promises made only to yourself often receive less respect. You say you will exercise tomorrow, study tonight, save money this month, wake up earlier, stop wasting time, or finish an important task. Then you break the promise because nobody else is waiting for an explanation. Over time, this creates a quiet loss of trust. The problem is not that you failed once. Everyone fails. The problem appears when making promises becomes easy and keeping them becomes optional. You start hearing your own plans without expecting action. That can weaken confidence because confidence requires some belief that your decisions will become behavior. Start with a simple exercise. Write down the promises you currently make to yourself. Include only commitments you genuinely intend to keep. You may discover that your list is much longer than your available time. This matters because an overloaded promise system creates unnecessary failure. You might promise yourself that you will wake up early, exercise for an hour, read 50 pages, study a new skill, work 8 focused hours, avoid social media, cook healthy meals, and sleep early every day. The plan sounds ambitious, but it may not fit your real schedule. A better approach is to reduce the number of promises and increase the quality of your follow-through. Choose 1 or 2 commitments that matter most. Make them specific. I will improve myself is too vague. I will study for 20 minutes after dinner is clear. I will exercise more is vague. I will walk for 20 minutes before breakfast is measurable. Specific promises are easier to evaluate. You should also make promises that match your current capacity. A promise should challenge you without requiring constant perfection. The goal is to build reliability, not to create a daily battle with unrealistic expectations. This leads to an important principle. Your confidence can grow through consistency before intensity. You do not need to do something difficult once to prove that you are disciplined. You need to perform a reasonable behavior repeatedly. 10 focused minutes every day can teach you more about reliability than one 5-hour session followed by 2 weeks of nothing. Consistency gives your mind repeated evidence. Consider someone who wants to become a better reader. Reading an entire book in one night may feel impressive, but reading 10 pages every evening creates a stable relationship with learning. After 30 days, the person has a record of keeping a small commitment. That record matters because it changes how they see their own behavior. The same principle applies to almost anything. You can build financial confidence by checking your spending every evening. You can build professional confidence by completing your most important task before lower-value activities. You can build physical confidence by keeping a regular movement routine. You can build communication confidence by practicing one difficult conversation instead of avoiding every uncomfortable discussion. The action may look small. The psychological effect can be significant. There is another mistake to avoid. Do not make promises based on your best mood. People often create plans at night when they feel inspired. They promise that tomorrow will be completely different. Then morning arrives with normal responsibilities, tiredness, interruptions, and unexpected problems. Your promise needs to survive ordinary life. Ask yourself whether you can still complete it on a busy day. If the answer is no, Make it smaller. You can always increase the commitment later. This is not weakness, it is good planning. A promise that can survive difficult days is much more valuable than a promise that works only when everything goes perfectly. You should also define what happens when you miss a commitment. Without a recovery rule, one missed day can become a week of avoidance. Decide in advance that missing once does not give you permission to miss twice without a serious reason. For example, you plan to exercise and something unexpected happened. Do not spend the evening criticizing yourself. Look at tomorrow's schedule and decide exactly when you will return to the routine. Recovery needs to be part of the plan. You can also use what is called a minimum standard. Decide the smallest version of the habit that still counts. On a normal day, you may study for 30 minutes. On an unusually difficult day, the minimum may be 10 minutes. This prevents the all or nothing pattern. All or nothing thinking causes many people to abandon useful habits. They believe that if they cannot perform perfectly, there is no point doing anything. But real life contains interruptions. Your ability to maintain a reduced version of a habit during difficult periods can protect your progress. There is also a deeper reason to keep promises. Every completed commitment reduces the gap between what you say and what you do. That gap matters. You may tell people that you want to become more disciplined, but your private behavior reveals whether that statement is real. You may say that learning matters to you. Your schedule shows how much time you actually give it. You may say that your health is important. Your daily choices reveal how seriously you treat that priority. Your actions are the strongest evidence of your values. This does not mean judging yourself harshly. It means becoming honest enough to notice the difference between intention and behavior. Take one promise you have repeatedly made but rarely kept. Study why it fails. Is the timing wrong? Is the task too large? Is your environment full of distractions? Do you forget? Do you start only when you feel motivated? Do you make the promise after feeling guilty about your previous behavior? Find the actual problem. Then redesign the commitment. If you forget, set a reminder. If the task is too large, reduce it. If the environment creates distraction, change the environment. If you depend on motivation, attach the behavior to an existing routine. A promise becomes easier to keep when you remove unnecessary friction. Suppose you want to practice a skill every evening. Keep the materials ready before dinner. Choose the exact time. Put the phone somewhere else. Decide what you will practice before the session begins. Now you have reduced the number of decisions required to start. Good systems protect good intentions. You should also stop making dramatic promises after disappointing yourself. This is a common cycle. You waste several days and then become frustrated. You promise to completely change your life starting tomorrow. The promise is emotional rather than practical. You follow it briefly and then return to old behavior. Break the cycle by responding to failure with a smaller commitment rather than a larger one. Missed several workouts. Do not promise to train 2 hours every day. Schedule the next short session. Wasted time online. Do not promise to eliminate every form of entertainment. Create a specific period for focused work before entertainment. Spent too much money. Do not promise to never buy anything again. Review your spending and set a clear limit. Practical correction is more useful than emotional punishment. Another valuable practice is to tell yourself the truth about what you can and cannot commit to. Saying no to yourself can sometimes be necessary. You cannot pursue every goal at the same time. Maybe you want to learn a language, build a business, become physically stronger, read more, improve your finances, and develop several professional skills. All of these may be worthwhile, but your time is limited. Choose what matters most now. Keeping fewer promises can make you more reliable because your attention is not divided across too many commitments. You can focus deeply on the responsibilities you have chosen. At the end of each week, review your promises. Do not only count successes. Examine failures without emotion. Which promises did you keep? Which ones did you break? Why? What needs to change? You are collecting information about how you function. Perhaps you work better in the morning. Perhaps your concentration drops after several hours. Perhaps you underestimate preparation time. Perhaps you need written reminders. Perhaps you need more rest. This knowledge allows you to design commitments that fit reality. Confidence grows when your plans become realistic and your behavior becomes dependable. There is also a quiet emotional reward that comes from doing what you told yourself you would do. You wake up and remember that you completed yesterday's commitment. You sit down to work, knowing that you have been showing up consistently. You face a difficult task with less internal resistance because you have evidence that you can follow through. That feeling is different from temporary excitement. It is built from experience. Start tonight. Choose one promise that can improve your life and can realistically be completed tomorrow. Write the exact behavior, the time, and the minimum amount required. Then complete it without waiting for the perfect mood. Do not make the promise dramatic. Make it trustworthy. Repeat the process. Let your actions become more dependable. Increase the challenge only after the current commitment has become stable. Eventually, your confidence will have a practical foundation. You will know that your plans deserve attention because you have a history of acting on them. You will become less impressed by what you intend to do and more interested in what you actually complete. That is a powerful change. You begin each day with greater respect for your own word. You understand that confidence is not something you have to pretend to possess. It is something you can build through repeated evidence. Keep your promises carefully. Make fewer of them. Make them clear. Give them enough time. Repair the ones you break. Then keep moving with the quiet certainty that comes from knowing you can depend on yourself. Chapter 10. Become someone you can truly depend on. A dependable person does not need to feel confident every day to move forward. They know how to handle ordinary responsibilities, difficult decisions, unexpected problems, and personal setbacks without abandoning themselves. Dependability is not about being perfect. It is about becoming consistent enough that your own future can rely on your present behavior. Many people want confidence because they want to feel better about themselves. A deeper goal is more useful. Become someone whose actions match their values, even on ordinary days. That changes confidence from a feeling into a form of personal reliability. Look at the people you trust in your own life. You probably trust them for practical reasons. They arrive when they say they will. They tell you the truth when something is wrong. They admit mistakes. They do not disappear whenever a situation becomes uncomfortable. They keep important information private. They complete responsibilities without needing constant reminders. Notice that none of these qualities requires a dramatic personality. Dependability is built through repeated behavior. You can build the same quality within yourself. Start by deciding what you want to be known for in your own mind. Perhaps you want to become someone who keeps commitments, handles money carefully, speaks honestly, learns continuously, protects important relationships, and finishes meaningful work. Do not choose 10 qualities at once. Choose 3 that would make the biggest difference to your life. Then turn each quality into visible behavior. If you want to be dependable, I will become more responsible is not enough. Decide what responsibility looks like today. It may mean answering an important message, completing a task before its deadline, preparing for tomorrow, or admitting that you made an error. Character becomes easier to develop when you can observe it. There is an important difference between identity and behavior. You might say, I am disciplined, but the useful question is, what did I do today that required discipline? You might say, I am honest. Ask whether you told the truth when the truth was uncomfortable. You might say, I care about my health. Ask what your schedule shows. This is not about criticizing yourself. It is about making your standards measurable. Your future self depends on the decisions you make repeatedly. The person you become next year is influenced by what you practice this week. Skills improve through use. Financial stability develops through repeated choices. Physical health reflects long-term behavior. Relationships become stronger through regular attention. The direction of your life is often easier to see in your routine than in your dreams. That means your first responsibility is to examine your routine honestly. Look at how you spend your mornings. Look at what happens during your working hours. Look at your evening habits. Notice where your attention goes. Notice what you repeatedly postpone. Notice which responsibilities create stress because you keep delaying them. Do not change anything for one day. Observe first. Observation gives you a more accurate starting point. You may discover that your biggest problem is not laziness. You may be sleeping too little. Your work environment may be full of interruptions. You may accept too many commitments. You may use entertainment to recover from an exhausting schedule. You may lack a clear priority. Once the real cause is visible, the solution becomes more practical. Dependability also requires learning how to manage your energy. A person cannot perform at the same level every hour of every day. Your concentration changes with sleep, food, stress, workload, and environment. This is why important work should not always be placed at the end of the day. Use your stronger periods for tasks that require concentration. Use lower energy periods for simpler responsibilities. Study your own patterns. For 1 week, notice when you naturally concentrate best. Record the time and the type of work you are doing. You may discover that your attention is stronger in the morning. Someone else may work better later. There is no universal schedule that fits everyone perfectly. The useful schedule is the one that fits your actual responsibilities and energy. Being dependable also means knowing your limits. Some people believe reliability means saying yes to everything. It does not. A person who accepts every request may eventually fail several people because they accepted more than they could handle. A clear no can protect a serious yes. Before agreeing to a new responsibility, check your schedule. Ask how much time it requires. Ask whether it conflicts with something more important. Ask whether you can complete it at the standard expected. If you cannot, say so honestly. This can feel uncomfortable at first because you may worry about disappointing someone, but false agreement creates a bigger problem later. Clear communication early is usually more respectful than a promise you cannot keep. You also need to become dependable during difficult conversations. Avoiding problems can create a temporary feeling of peace, but unresolved problems often become more expensive with time. A misunderstanding can grow. A financial issue can become larger. A small work error can affect other tasks. A relationship problem can become resentment. Learn to address problems while they are still manageable. Use simple language. State what happened. Explain what you need. Listen to the other person's response. Agree on the next action when possible. You do not need to win every conversation. Your goal is to deal with reality without unnecessary hostility. Dependability also requires emotional control. You will become tired. You will become irritated. Someone will disappoint you. Plans will change. You will sometimes receive criticism that feels unfair. You cannot control every event, but you can improve your response. Create a personal pause rule for situations that usually trigger you. Do not send important messages while extremely angry. Do not make major financial decisions during emotional excitement. Do not make serious commitments because you feel guilty. Give yourself enough time to return to a clearer state. This small habit can prevent decisions that create long periods of regret. Another part of being dependable is knowing how to recover after disruption. Your routine will be interrupted. You may become sick, travel, face family responsibilities, experience financial pressure, or simply have a terrible week. Do not measure your character by whether disruption happens. Measure it by how you respond afterward. Return to the most important behavior first. Do not attempt to repair your entire life in one day. Re-establish sleep. Reorganize your schedule. Complete one important task. Review your finances. Restart your exercise routine. Contact the person you need to contact. A stable return is more useful than a dramatic restart. There is also a deeper form of dependability that involves your own emotional life. Stop making yourself feel guilty for having normal emotions. You can be disappointed without calling yourself weak. You can be nervous without deciding that you are incapable. You can feel tired without declaring that you have lost discipline. Your emotions provide information, but they should not become permanent instructions. Ask what the feeling is telling you. Maybe you need rest. Maybe a boundary has been crossed. Maybe you are afraid of an important change. Maybe you are carrying too many responsibilities. Listen carefully, then decide what action is actually useful. You also need to protect your attention. A person cannot become dependable while allowing every notification, message, video, and random request to interrupt important work. Set periods where your phone is not controlling your attention. Put it away during focused tasks. Check messages at planned times when possible. Turn off unnecessary notifications. This is not about becoming unreachable, it is about becoming available for what matters. Your ability to concentrate is part of your reliability. People can depend on you more when you can give important responsibilities your full attention. You can also depend on yourself more because your own goals receive uninterrupted time. At the end of each week, perform a personal review. Ask what you handled well, Ask where you failed to meet your own standards. Identify one behavior that created unnecessary problems. Identify one behavior that made your week better. Then choose one adjustment for the following week. Do not create a huge list of corrections. One useful adjustment, repeated for several weeks, can have a greater effect than 10 changes attempted for 2 days. You should also recognize that being dependable does not mean living a rigid life. You need room for rest, enjoyment, relationships, and unexpected events. A schedule that leaves no space for life is not a strong system. Plan your important responsibilities while leaving reasonable flexibility. This allows you to respond to unexpected events without destroying everything else. The person you can depend on is not the person who never struggles. It is the person who knows what to do when struggling begins. They ask for help when necessary. They admit what they do not know. They repair mistakes. They adjust plans. They protect important commitments. They return after setbacks. They continue learning. That is real personal strength. You can start building it today with one simple decision. Choose something you have been postponing because it is uncomfortable or inconvenient. Complete it properly, not for praise, not to impress anyone. Complete it because you want to become the kind of person who handles important responsibilities. Then choose another tomorrow. Over time, your identity will begin to follow your behavior. You will not need to constantly tell yourself that you are capable. Your experience will show you. You will know that you can handle a difficult conversation because you have handled one before. You will know that you can recover from a mistake because you have repaired one before. You will know that you can stay with a difficult task because you have done it repeatedly. You will know that you can make responsible decisions because your past choices provide evidence. That is the strongest form of self-belief. You no longer depend entirely on how you feel about yourself in a particular moment. You have built a record of behavior that gives you something solid to trust. Take care of that record. Keep your word. Tell the truth. Learn from your mistakes. Protect your time. Respect your responsibilities. Ask for help when you need it. Give yourself enough rest to function well. Correct your direction when evidence shows that something is not working. Then keep becoming better. Your confidence will grow because your life will repeatedly show you that you can rely on yourself. And once you become someone you can truly depend on, you carry a form of strength that does not require constant approval from anyone else. Your life will not change because someone else finally believes in you. It will change when you decide that your own belief is enough to begin. There will be days when you feel uncertain. There will be mistakes you wish you could undo. There will be people who question your choices. There will be moments when your progress feels too slow to notice. Do not use those moments as proof that you should stop. Use them as opportunities to become more capable. Keep your promises to yourself. Make the difficult decision. Learn from the mistake. Stop measuring your worth against someone else's life. Keep improving even when nobody notices. You do not need to become a completely different person tomorrow. You need to make one better decision today, then another tomorrow. Remember this. Self-belief is built every time you keep going after your doubt tells you to stop. The person you want to become is being shaped by what you do today. So leave this audiobook with one commitment. Trust yourself enough to take the next step. And whenever you begin questioning your ability again, come back to this message. Listen again. Remind yourself why you started, then get back to the work. Your journey is not finished. You are still becoming.